Your beard looks nice today.
Thank you. I shaved it off.
That's why it looks nice.
Exactly. It was getting awful, wasn't it? I can't do it like Daz. Like Daz can pull off a beard. I look more like hobo chic, where
Hobo chic. Hmm.
yeah, where Daz looks like he's off the streets, like a proper homeless person growing a beard. Do you know what I mean?
Sorry, Daz. All right, good people. How are we doing out there? We're back after a short, unplanned summer break. I say unplanned because Nicholas got stuck in an airport for 3 days trying to decipher duty-free whiskey labels, and I was off sunning my buns in Greece for a week. Needless to say, there was only one of us that came back with tan lines from that whole palaver, and it wasn't Nicholas. How you doing, my friend?
Not bad. I'm delighted to be here, but sad to see your tan lines. You can put that away. I don't need to look at that. But
Oh,
indeed,
you don't mind? You don't
welcome.
mind it?
Welcome to another episode of Not Another Whisky Podcast, where Mitch and I catch up on what's been going on in the world of whiskey. And while I recover from my airport-induced trauma, it was all the remnants of these storms and hurricanes that have been coming up the coast, pushing 75, 100-mile-an-hour winds across the coast. So that's kind of what threw me into a tizzy. But let's find out, Mitch, like, are your tan lines as legendary as the drams and the stories that you've been telling along the way?
Well, that is the secret you'll never know, mate.
Thank God for both of us.
Is it so? Is that what it was? Because we were meant to record, and you text me just saying I'm stuck in an airport. So how long were you stuck in the airport for?
It was a bit of a plane strange and automobile. So basically, I was in Minneapolis. Another shout out to Minneapolis, by the way, and quite specifically, shout out to my team at Vinacopia, the distributor out there. Like these guys, like not as a tiny little state, it's a cool little state in the kind of North Midwest, but they love a bit of whiskey, not just Shibuya, but they love a bit of whiskey. So we went out and like it's just a really cool market, great buyers, great people, great restaurants, great liquor stores, and everybody kind of gets excited when you come into town. So it was a lot of fun. But then all hell broke loose once I got to the airport. So instead of flying direct back to New York, New Jersey, I then all my flights were delayed, cancelled, delayed, cancelled, delayed, cancelled. So I then flew to Chicago, Illinois, stayed overnight in Chicago, Illinois, because at least there's more flights that can get out of Chicago. There's only 2 flights a day that get out of Minneapolis, where I needed to get to. And then I got an early morning flight back to New Jersey. So it took me like 2 days, 2.5 days to kind of get home from what should have been a 2 hour flight, 3 hour flight, became a 2.5 hour, 2.5 day
Like
escapade.
Carrie was loving you for that.
No one was loving me for that. No one was loving me for that. But it is what it is, right? You know, what I mean, it's the trials and tribulations of packing your bags and traveling around the world being a whiskey guy. You know it yourself,
Yeah,
Mitch.
I don't miss traveling around the US. I've got to admit, like the amount of traveling that we did back in the day. Yeah,
I know.
not missing that at
How
all.
how was your vacation, your holiday?
My
How was it?
vacation was amazing, man. Went to Greece, so we went to the little island
The
of
musical?
Kos.
Oh, the whole time I thought it was just the musical.
What's your favorite song from Greece?
What do you mean, what's my favorite song from Grease Lightning? Go back to high school.
Has to be, right? I thought it would have
Beauty
been the
school
Sandy one.
dropout.
Sandy. Um, yeah, so first time to Greece, mate, and yeah, really cool. Weather was obviously amazing, and people were just so friendly, so cool, so welcoming. Food was fantastic, and yeah, just kind of lay about in the sun. Little bit of beach time, little bit of pool time. We hired a car, went on the island for a bit, went on a big boat trip, which was kind of touristy, but also kind of cool to see all the other islands. So yeah, really enjoyed it. Just got back a couple of days ago. So yeah, all good, mate. All good. Um, Nice to be a little bit recharged. Good to get a little bit of sun because as everyone listening from the UK will know, our summer has not been a summer. It has been absolutely shit.
Yeah. I don't know. Something to look forward to when I get there, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. But what else you been up to apart from getting stuck in? airports?
Honestly, it has been a lot of work at the moment, which has been pretty good. Working on some fun stuff, working with some cool brands. So doing some stuff in Shibuya. Obviously, I've got Whiskey Dog Consultancy as well, so I get to work across a couple of fun things. So doing some stuff with the fine folks at Loch Lomond Group. So bit of your favourite, Glen Scotia. So I've been sipping a
Nice.
wee bit of that recently, sipping a bit of the Loch Lomond Group stuff and a little bit of Little Mill, and also doing some stuff with the fine chaps at Gordon and MacPhail. So we've got loads and loads of stuff just coming up. I'm just really busy, which is fabulous. Like it's the best possible way. And then as of Sunday, so 2 days from now, I'm taking a little bit well-earned vacation. I've not been in holiday for actually years, like a real just a week off, like not being on my phone, not being on my laptop. That's probably been a few years since I've done that. So I'm taking a week up to the northeast coast, going up to Rhode Island, to Newport, Rhode Island, to go and eat lobster rolls and sit on the beach and go around all the old mansion homes and vacation like the Kennedys, big man. That's what I'm gonna do.
Nice, mate. Nice. I never made it up there, but it's so kind of stereotypical American kind
It's
of vacation, right? I think. Like when I think
I,
of
I
Rhode Island.
I think it's if Ralph Lauren sneezed out a vacation home, that's what it would be. It would be Newport, Rhode Island. There's a lot of V-neck sweaters tied up over the shoulders, a lot of boating sandals and things like that. But it's cool. Like you can go down to the docks and you can take boat rides out, which I've done. They have all these kind of Gilded Age mansions that you can do tours of now. Most of the homes were donated to the state, mainly because it was so expensive to keep open. I think rather than the fact that the like all these kind of stately homes that you even find in Scotland, none of them made money. Lots of them were in a lot of debt, but they wanted to all have their titles and things like that for the land. Very similar to Newport, but it's cool because you can go around these homes and these tours and stuff. But I just like the town. Like the town's cool. It gets flooded during the summer. Like everybody comes there to hang out because that's the thing that goes on there. And there's a lot of sailing. The America's Cup runs out of there as well, which is great if you're into boats and things like that, which I am. So it's kind of fun to see.
You're
Um,
going to get your loafers on and you're going to have your cardigan
I,
around your
I
shoulder, all
don't.
that kind of
I
look,
kind of
right?
stand out like a sore thumb because I don't do that. So I'm the kind of top to toe tattoo guy that they think I'm the help. Like I'm the kitchen staff that's stepped off the boat for the day. It's brilliant. So people kind of leave me to it.
Speaking of old mansions, mate, one of the things that I did a couple of weeks ago, which was pretty cool, we helped co-host a Glenfiddich press trip for a new release that's coming out, which I'm not allowed to talk about just yet. And stayed at Rothes Glen, so that was nice. We used them for our accommodation for the trip. So I don't know if you've seen Rothes Glen yet, but it's literally about 20 minutes drive from where I am. Owned by Whiskey Magazine, beautiful 16 bedroom mansion that they've turned into this beautiful property. So
Hmm.
yeah, hung out there with the guys there on the this sort of media trip for the night, and that was pretty sweet.
Very
Not
nice.
not too bad a gig.
Not too shabby at all.
Yeah. Anyway, mate, enough of this. That's
Let's
enough of
get
the
into
catch up. We've got a load of stuff that has gone on in the whiskey news, which we need to
it.
get into. So let's see if we can make sense of everything that's been going on from Beyonce's latest whiskey venture to Scottish scientists turning whiskey waste into literal liquid gold. Are you ready to get into this?
I am ready to get into this. I took a Xanax before I got on this, and I'm only joking. But
Well,
I
I think
brought
you need to because the first thing I gave you is this Beyonce whiskey, which has been going absolutely like my feed has just been nothing but this Beyonce whiskey, the Sir Davis, I think it's called.
it is Sir Davis.
Um, let's get into this, mate.
Let's
What's your
let
opinion on this?
let's unpack this, right? So for those of you who don't know, Beyonce Knowles, billionaire musician who's never, ever, ever shown any interest in any whiskey ever her entire life until 6 months ago when her feed changed and all of a sudden it was starting to be littered with posts of whiskey consumption. And Moat Hennessy, LVMH, another billion-dollar conglomerate, decided that what was necessary and really missing in the whiskey space was Beyonce's whiskey. So Sir Davis, which is basically the singer's paternal great grandfather, Davis Hogue, who was apparently a moonshiner, pretty much like anybody back in that Prohibition era day, right? So bear that in mind. And it's everywhere. Now, for those of you that haven't seen it, just picture the Sassenach bottle with a different label at the front of it, because that's exactly what it is. It is an American whiskey. But I've got a couple of things here. I'm going to warm up to this because there's a couple of here things that need to be called out. The first thing that I read in the release of the press release was how Beyonce was so inspired by Japanese whiskies and all these other things. So specifically calling out Japanese whiskey for no reason, because this is not Japanese whiskey. It's not even remotely anything to do with Japanese whiskey, but they've sure as shit put that in the press release because that's a buzzword. So this is a 51% rye, 49% malted barley, which is made in the Pacific Northwest, a distillery that LVMH own. So it's made in America in the Northwest and blended by Bill Lumsden apparently alongside the help of Beyonce, which twofold. This was then supposed to be part of representing the Houston-born's Texas Stars roots. So it's then my understanding is on this, because it's quite a lot going on, is that it's then the whiskey's taken to Texas where it's blended and bottled. And there's all this hoopla, and I've been reading on a couple of different points of view on this. Yes, this is brilliant because this is a female powerhouse, an African American powerhouse who's driving attention to the whiskey category for consumers that may not otherwise see it. Take all of that out of it, and what I see is another billionaire celebrity, very wealthy person, and a 50-50 split with another very wealthy company putting a product out into the market and hoping that celebrity drives sales on it. Now, the reason I say that is if there was an actual need for Beyonce to be like, this is something I want to do to help promote, my background and my community, here's a stretch. Milliman Green is a female-founded, American-owned, Texas-based small distillery that, with a little bit of funding, I'm sure could have poured gasoline in the fire of their brand, and Beyonce could have been an investor in it. And quite frankly, to put anything Japanese near this is toxic. It's not even using, at the very least, if you were going to use the word Japanese, you could have finished it in Mizunara oak. It's not, it's all sherry cask matured. And if Bill Lumsden needs help making whiskey from Beyonce, maybe Bill Lumsden needs to look for a new job. Because I can guarantee you, in Beyonce's next album, Bill Lumsden ain't singing the backing vocals. So what the hell are we doing in this market? There are, in my opinion, when I see things like this is taking away from the workloads. And we'll get onto this in another piece of news. There are distilleries where people have put their life, blood, heart, and soul into things currently closing down because they couldn't secure funding for expansion, or they couldn't get money in from strategic companies like this in order to help them survive and thrive and do some other stuff. Instead, this is a quick power grab. It doesn't benefit anybody other than, I'm sure, the huge chunk of money that Beyonce knows will make from this, and the huge chunk of money that LVMH will make from this. Outside of that, I'm sure the whiskies are delicious. Like, I'm sure all of that stuff is true. It's Bill Lumsden, right? We know he doesn't make bad whiskey. But let's be very, very clear on what this is. This is Woodinville in a bottle. That's what it is. It's Woodinville whiskey from the Pacific Northwest, packaged up with a story about Texas and mentioning Japan for whatever wild reason, but that's apparently the chat. So it couldn't be put on your yoga pants, because I think that's a stretch to get to this being anything close to being valuable for anything to do other than money. Mitch, what are your thoughts?
But I mean, I just want to say, I don't think that Xanax is working very well, mate.
I don't think so either. But I know I'm off on a rant.
I think you make some really good points, right? And I think definitely the point about this could have been done with a smaller distillery is really valid. Like that's 100%. I don't know. When I first saw it, I was a little bit more positive about it, just in the fact that she's such a big name.
Correct.
And to have a whiskey in there is great for the brand. And then I kind of thought about it a little bit, and I'm like, this is Scotland going to another whiskey again, i.e. with Bill. And
nothing to do with
you look at the US right now. Yeah, you look at the US right now, and the US is struggling with Scotch whiskey sales, and it's all going towards bourbon. This is another thing that's going to drive bourbon sales. Maybe it might help Scotch whiskey, but I doubt it.
How?
So I don't know, positives and negatives for me. I think it's
What's the
like
line
I
into
said, my
Scotch whiskey though? Other than Bill being the master blender for this, what
yeah,
is it?
yeah, there's nothing.
There's
There's
nothing,
nothing.
right? None of it's made in Scotland. None of it sees Scotland. It's not a Scotch whiskey. Like it's not inspired by Scotland. It's a 51% rye mash bill,
Apparently
closer
they've
to
dropped the
Canadian whiskey
E.
than it.
Apparently they've dropped the E in spelling of the whiskey. So that's a little.
So again, see to me, this is like marketing, not like see when you read the press release, it's like it's a fucking word salad of hits that thought like it's everywhere. Like it's done its job. Like credit where credit's due. The only person in all of this that deserves a pay rise is the PR team for LVMH because this news is absolutely everywhere. Why
Hmm.
drop the E? It's got nothing to do with Scotland. It's got
Well, I mean,
nothing to do with it. None of it. What?
mate, well, listen. We should let Beyonce have her say. I
Yeah, come on
sat
the
down with
show.
her yesterday and had a little chat with her. So let's drop in that interview right now and see what she has to say about it. Oh, wait, sorry, Floyd. I think I've lost that
You
interview. So
forgot
so
to
that's
hit
that's a shame.
record. You forgot to hit
I did,
record that
mate.
whole time.
Damn it.
Oh
Okay. Well,
man. Because she spent apparently 45 minutes explaining her passion for whiskey, all the
she did.
intricacies of making it. Did you read the press release? Like there's a whole thing with like we were so impressed by how she was able to retain all the knowledge of like I'm like, so wait, you basically had to explain to Beyonce knows what whiskey was and how it's made. That's basically what came out of that press release. And then it's done in a way that's framed like she's some amazing person that managed to grasp all these concepts. I'm like, cool. That's like anybody who ever comes to visit a distillery in Scotland that gets excited about what we do in Scotland and then leaves going like that. That was a brilliant tour. I really loved what happened in the 45 minutes. I now understand what goes on at that distillery. But I still don't want that tourist coming in and trying to make a fucking blend. And more than that, if you put five whiskies in front of somebody and say, which one do you like most? And they choose one of those whiskies, that does not make you a master blender or involved in the process, other than the fact that someone else with a lot more talent has put something really great in front of you and your five choices were spectacular to begin with. So we know Bill Lumsden can make great whiskey. We know he's one of the best talents in Scotland, and none of it is to do with female founded, and none of it is to do with minority groups, and none of it is to do with supporting Texas, other than the fact that this fought a bottling line. So instead of actually doing something, investing money into that market to build a distillery or to support an existing distillery or to actually do something that had any level of authenticity around it, you get a 4-page press release filled with buzzwords and a word salad, and everybody's all over it. Somebody needs to call bullshit. Let's call bullshit.
I think it was for me. What was interesting was everyone that posted about this within the whiskey world, or most people, it was like a one-word post about it, and it was most of the time it just said interesting, and then the link was
Yeah.
posted, and that was it.
I
That
saw
was telling to me.
I saw a lot of back and forth, and there was a couple of people that I was like, you know what, that's a really valid point. Like, so Becky Paskin, who we love, great fan in the show, and we love her back. She was like that. Like, this is good. This is like a really good way to engage, another diverse audience into the world of whiskey. I I think there's better ways to do it. I think that like billionaire, this is a billionaire in the music world that could have done this better, and it's not authentic to me. And it's not with
Yeah,
me
yeah.
being in a high horse. I just don't find it authentic. I think it's don't piss on me and tell me it's raining outside, right? I'm not saying it's not going to make them a lot of money, and I'm not saying it's not a great drop of whiskey, and I'm not saying it's not a beautiful piece of packaging. It's a Sassenach bottle, which is a nice little piece of packaging with a different front on it, and this wild story about trying to tie Beyonce into being a whiskey lover and all the things to do with Japan and all the things to do with Texas. And that's not what it is. It's just not what it
What's the,
is.
the the price point on it is 80
90
pounds, like
bucks, yeah.
$100. Is that right?
$100, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
$100 bottle of Woodinville. And here's the other thing. Woodinville have just released their oldest whiskey to date, which is an 8-year-old. And the price point of it is $89. So you can actually go and buy the rarest whiskey that this distillery has ever produced from the same producer, LVMH, who bought that distillery. They've just released their 8-year-old, which is the oldest casks that they have on site. So why would you not just go and do that?
Mm. It's a good point. It's a good point.
Like,
Right. So,
moving
as
on.
as the listeners know, I'd love just winding Nicholas up with these celebrity whiskies.
I know
So
you
well
do.
done there. You didn't disappoint there, Nicholas. Well done. Well
Well,
done.
now, show me exactly why I'm upset about it. Tell me the bad news.
Well, yeah. I mean, when we're looking through the news this week, and bear in mind we haven't done a catch-up episode for 5 weeks now, so there was quite a bit of news for us to go through. And unfortunately, there is some kind of negativity within the stories that are going on in the whiskey world right now. The first one that we have is Penderyn. It's post production at its third distillery, Swansea. And again, this is due to the slow economy. It's basically caused a drop in demand for its products. So this distillery's been open for just over a year, and it's in South Wales. And basically, it's mothballing right now, so it's pausing production, and it's still going to be open as a visitor center, but they're just not going to be producing for just now. And they're basically saying that this is from their operating officer Neil Quigley. We are aligning our spirit production with our forward sales forecast, and we'll be looking to resume production as soon as possible. So they're not completely closing down, but it's just another one of these signs about whiskey that is a little bit worrying. Let's say
Concerning
that another distillery or a distillery is actually pausing their production for a while. And bear in mind, this is a very new distillery, so. Yeah, that's a bit of our sort of first negative story, I suppose, for this week, Nicholas. Not so good.
No, not so good, but not the only one, right? So not the only one at all, which I'll let you get onto in a little bit. On some other kind of interesting news, Scottish scientists are turning whiskey, could turn 2.6 billion litres actually of whiskey waste into 90 million quid worth of liquid gold. So the idea is of utilizing wastewater from traditional whiskey industry to recover it into bio-based chemicals for fuel sources and things like that. So it's pretty interesting. This is not completely new, but basically Aberdeen startup Ripcell is working with researchers from the University of Aberdeen to examine the feasibility of recovering high-value compounds such as lactic acid from pot ale and spent lees, which are co-products of the first and second stages of the whiskey distillation process. Now, what they're effectively then trying to do is extract those products, which have potential applications in sectors like pharmaceuticals, food and drink, cosmetics, where manufacturing typically depends on unsustainable petrochemical derived ingredients. So, this is something I think we spoke about this before, like the samples of steam provided by Chivas Brothers was kind of helping kind of like generate the process behind this. But Ripcell founder Eve Wildman said that around 2.6 billion litres of wastewater is produced from the whiskey industry every year. So the potential of this process is absolutely huge, right? So for decades, the majority of these co-products have been used as animal feed, which we know, but there's now found a new way to kind of reprocess this and use the residues for much more impactful and sustainable manufacturing key compounds rather than using fossil fuels, which can help reduce greenhouse gas emissions from the production process. So it's pretty fun stuff.
It's really cool. And, this it came up in my feed in the Scots when there was reporting about this. So I actually stalked Eve on LinkedIn, and I sent her a message. So it'd be good to get her on the show and just get a quick soundbite from her about exactly how they're going to do this, because I think it's really interesting kind of stuff that's going on here.
It is.
So the next thing, I think this one's kind of slipped off our radar a little bit, Nicholas, because we haven't talked about the Benbecula distillery, even though it opened up and started running for the first time back in June. So Benbecula, for those that don't know, is a little island located in the Outer Hebrides, which is part of Scotland's Western Isles, and it's situated between the islands of North Uist and South Uist. It's a pretty small island, population's only 1,300 people, and now they have a distillery, aptly named the Benbecula Distillery. And the good thing about this is it was our good friend, Brendan McCadden, that actually helped to create the recipe at Benbecula. And the story goes that he's been using recipes from distilleries such as Glenord and Highland Park from back in the 19th century. So the owner here, Mr. Angus McMillan, dropped 6.5 million into this distillery, which is based at Gramdale in the northern end of Benbecula. And, production's already started here. I believe they've got a cask program as well. It's a beautiful looking distillery. I mean, I love this very modern sort of style, and it's almost got this lighthouse style glass front with one of the stills in it. So it looks stunning, and obviously a bit of a trek to get there. I mean, you're going to have to get a couple of boats to get to Benbecula. It's pretty far out there on the west coast of Scotland. But again, this is a positive story. We've got a new distillery in Scotland now making whiskey, which is great to see.
That's amazing. Anyway, more somber news. Macmyra, the trailblazing Swedish distillery known for its innovative cask maturation and regional flavours, has now declared bankruptcy. So this is a huge blow for Scandinavian whiskey as a whole, because they were definitely the largest and the pioneer in that region. They were experimenting with Swedish oak cask, cloudberry wine, and other unique kind of local ingredients. However, despite their creative approach, they struggled financially for some time, basically trying to find mostly a cash flow issue, right? So the effects of the pandemic have obviously exacerbated the situation. They were founded in 1999, so this isn't like a distillery that was kind of up and running in the last 5 years, and all of a sudden it hit troubled waters. They were at some point really growing and doing some great stuff, but obviously struggling with high production costs, effort to expand internationally, which didn't bring in the revenue that they'd hoped for. Again, a lot of that coming down to financial support and backing in order to promote and build any brand. But when you're tying your money up with every celebrity that wants to put their name to something, I can understand why it's more difficult for brands like this to find their money. Perhaps if they found a Swedish singer that never ever drank whiskey in their life, that had already made a fortune in music, maybe that would have helped. Their closure raises questions about the sustainability of smaller and innovative distilleries in an increasingly competitive market, especially when we're flooding the zone with nonsense. That is my 2 cents on that. 2 distilleries closing down under our nose. Anyway.
It's sad to see, man. I mean, Macmyra, I was always a big fan of what they did, the way they started up, the way they kind of pushed everything in a really unusual way. As far as I know, to date, they're the only whiskey that I know of that used AI to actually create one of their expressions, which I thought was quite pioneering. And bear in mind that was about 2 years ago when that started to come out. So yeah, it's sad to see, definitely. And I was quite surprised at this because I thought this was a brand that was really strong and had a really good foothold in the market. And I was pretty shocked to see it closed down. So hopefully they can find some way out, and this isn't the end, but it seems pretty final from this statement of what they're saying. So one more bit of bad news, and this doesn't pertain to you particularly, Nicholas. This is definitely something that's Scottish based, but we've had this shocker now of our prices going up in whiskey for quite a while, and this is all thanks to the minimum price alcohol scheme that was put in back in 2018. So this basically sets the base price of unit alcohol dependent on the ABV, right? So earlier this year, MSVPs voted in Scotland to put that rate up from 50p to 65p, which is a 30% hike. And this move was designed to reflect the impact of inflation. And it thought initially it would increase from the start of May, but that was pushed back to September 1st. So as we record that is only 2 weeks away. Now, to give you an example, again, this was from the Scotsman when they produced this graph of how that's going to look. So vodka and gin for 1 litre, that would go from £18.75 to £24.38. Vodka and gin for a 70 cl, £13.30 to £17.07. Scotch whiskey, this is the kicker, is if it's an average bottle of £14, that will then go up to £18.20. So pretty brutal for us here over in Scotland. In the next coming weeks, we're going to see even more price put onto Scotch whiskey here. And if you ask me, it's already through the roof with regards to what we're paying. The argument here is that we have too much essentially binge drinking, and this is going to help it. The SWA is arguing against that, obviously, because when it comes to quality whiskies, we don't really see that many people binge drinking it, and it's really affecting and harming the sales of it over here in Scotland. Something that I kind of agree with regards to that.
Correct.
So yeah, not the best for our prices over here, mate. So when you're coming over here, just maybe grab a bottle of whiskey to chuck in your case when you're coming over.
I was just going to say though, this doesn't seem to be data led. That's the problem with this. This is generating massive amount of government tax dollars, right? Tax money, right? Tax pounds. But it's not actually combating the issues at hand. It's not combating alcoholism and the back. We've spoken about this before, like the underlying issues to why people overconsume alcohol in the first place, which in 99% of the times is related in some manner to mental health concerns. So there's a massive amount of putting your finger in the air to try to like guess what way the wind's blowing here, and specifically, it has a detrimental effect, more so on Scotch whiskey than any other category, and it's just a poor showing, and it paves the way for quite frankly, it paves the way if this is what the taxing looks like in Scotland and in the United Kingdom for our own homegrown products. Do not be surprised when other countries and other nations follow suit. You can't throw your hands up in the air when we start looking at, oh, look at the costs and the taxes of importing this product when we're already self-imposing it in our home market. It's the height of stupidity. Just my 2 cents there, but yeah, I'm with you in this one, Mitch. Sad to see. Shall we finish
Yeah,
in some good news though in that aspect?
let's
Like
do it, mate.
where
Let's do
some
it.
where some things do actually go away. So the good news is that Brazil have now announced that they're recognising the geo indication of Scotland and Scotch whisky. So that allows us to tighten up the regulations specifically, and it gives the SWA the power to specifically look at the South America's largest economy, Brazil, and ensure that anything that is regarded as Scotch whisky or promoted as Scotch whisky is legitimately Scotch whisky. And over 5 years, they're thinking that this is going to save us over 25 million, could be worth about 25 million pounds, just to enforce that geographical indication, which is really good news and exciting news. And another massive country. I'm actually shocked. I didn't actually realize that Brazil hadn't recognized it. But this is put it into context. Brazil is in the top 5 global growth markets for alcohol over the next 5 years. Its population is over 200 million people, and they already have a massive appreciation for whiskey, which we all knew, predominantly blended Scotch whiskey, which is great. But with the UK exporting almost 90 million pounds of Scotch whiskey to Brazil in 2023 alone. So this is a massive value market for us. And it's great now that we've got that the kind of GI scheme connecting British producers and Scotch whisky producers specifically with what's going on out in that Latin American market.
Yeah, so just to explain to if anyone's listening that doesn't understand what GI is, it's basically a geographical indication. So it's essentially an intellectual property right used for products that have qualities or characteristics attributing to specific geographical locations. So examples would be Scotch whisky. That's an obvious one. Welsh lamb, Melton Mowbray pork pies is another one as well that obviously comes into it.
Parma
Things like
ham.
champagne, obviously, yeah, Parma ham, exactly. So anything that's made from that particular area has a GI tag to it. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Nicholas, on this one. It's kind of weird that we didn't have that already in Brazil. I don't
Yeah,
understand why, but I'm sure there's a reason why. But yeah, it's good to see that's happened. It's a positive thing for Scottish whiskey. So,
correct.
mate, the final bit of news that I haven't got on here, and I wanted to kind of jump this on you, but I got a new job.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got
Is it?
hired at the guillotine factory.
Oh, okay.
I'll
Oh
be
yeah.
yeah, I'll be heading there tomorrow.
Oh. Oh, God. What's the difference between a camera and a foot?
Tell me.
A camera has photos and a foot is five toes. Come on. Boom.
What
I'm going.
what do you call a girl standing in the middle of a tennis court?
I don't know.
Annette.
Oh. Oh my God. Actually, speaking of like funniest jokes, so you know the Fringe Festival's just kind of come and gone in Edinburgh. You know that they do this like these top 10 best like one-liner gags. Have you seen this before?
Yeah, yeah.
So the one this year was pretty good. The previous years are pretty funny as well, but this was the number one joke, which was by a guy called Mark Simmons, which was, I was going to sail around the globe in the world's smallest ship, but I bottled it. That was the number one joke at the Fringe. Oof.
That's like our jokes.
I feel like I should get a stage at the Fringe.
I did it. We did actually go to see one Fringe show. Went to see Jason Byrne, which is our kind of go-to comedian every year at the Fringe. So funny.
I think this one's funnier, which was the number two joke, which was, I've been taking salsa lessons for months, but I just don't feel like I'm progressing. It's just like one step forward, two steps back. That's a fucking funny joke. There's no fat in that joke. That's a funny joke.
What did the elephant say to the naked man?
Don't know.
How the fuck do you breathe with that thing?
Obviously.
And on that note, I think that
that
about wraps it up, mate. It's been good catching up. It's been a while. So apologies to everyone listening that hasn't heard from us for, we like to try and get everything out every week, an episode out every week. But, this week's been the last kind of month has been a bit crazy. But we have got another episode coming out next week. So do not worry about that. So anyway, I'm going to wrap things up here. It's interesting chat about Beyonce's whiskey empire to Scottish scientists turning whiskey waste into. You're going to go. I'm sure you are, mate. I'm sure you are. What are you going to do with it? That's the question. All right. Well, listen, on that note, don't forget to tune in next time. We're going to be chatting to our good friend Gary Mills, brand ambassador for Loch Lomond, a great guy who I've hung out with at the Loch Lomond Distillery before. But until then, guys, thank you so much for listening. We do appreciate each and every one of you. Hope you're having a great time out there. Hope you're drinking some great whiskies, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.